Heads up, attention, all Seminole business owners. If your business has been affected by the COVID-19 virus and you have insurance coverage for business interruption, Morgan Law Group may be able to help you. Contact the Morgan Law Group for a free consultation and review of your policy today. Just call 888-904-2524. For more information, head to policyadvocate.com/headlines, where you'll see my pretty mug, and click the COVID-19 link. On with the show we go.
It's time for Seminole Headlines, presented by Capital City Bank, featuring ESPN Tallahassee's Jeff Cameron, WarChant.com's managing editor Ira Schofel, and senior writer Corey Clark. Your weekly dose of all things FSU, Pistols, and Pies starts right now. Here's Jeff Cameron.
The Seminole Headlines, 97.9 ESPN Radio begins right freaking now. That's when it begins. I'm Jeff. That's Ira and Corey. They work for WarChant.com, and here we are with another Sterling rendition of the show, or Sterling rendition of the show. Hello, Corey.
Hey, man, let the listeners know Jeff's a little bit out of sorts. He had about 10 minutes of technical difficulties that I don't think he's quite recovered from yet. I think it's still, I can see it in his face right now. It's really still bothering him.
Frustration, Ira, but you could see through that, the professional in me is going to get over it in this very first segment.
Well, you said Sterling. You said Sterling and not Sterling. That's where I was concerned.
Yeah, I'm okay.
All right.
I'm okay.
You're handling this just like Jimbo handled whatever happened before the Boston College game.
Yeah, you need to rally the troops.
You've compartmentalized it. You've moved past it. You're totally composed. You're ready for the game.
I had a weird morning. It feels like I've never really gotten good footing. And so, like sometimes you get a day where you never really get solid ground to stand on.
And then you're hoping the whole time going through all that adversity, you're thinking, you know what? At least I got headlines today. I've got Corey and Ira. It's gonna make the whole week.
That'll stabilize the thing.
I was racing into the studio to get here on time because not only was that the scheduled time for us to do the show, but I thought, thank God I have Seminole Headlines coming up. I mean, this is going to stabilize everything. And then right out the box, we had technical difficulties, and I was like, Jesus, this is it. This is my day.
Yeah. It's all right. Yeah. We're gonna Corey and I are here for you. We're going to get through this.
I'm excited. I'm sure that we'll talk about so many sports, so many games going on, so many events to, not only break down, but look forward to. So we have it. There's almost too much.
Hey, at least we're doing it today and not Monday where, when you called me Monday to do my hit on your show, you were like, so what are we going to talk about? And I was like, man, what can we talk? I mean, it was complete despair after the weekend, but I think not that anything's gotten better in the last couple of days, but I think just kind of giving it some time.
You ease the week. You suddenly you're not,
I mean, those from Thursday or Friday over the weekend was just bleak.
Well, it hasn't been great. It hasn't been a great few days, but I think we're wrestling with the idea that, again, we intellectually, I think all three of us and many others who've had a chance to talk about the subject of college football and whether or not it's going to be played, we all wrapped our mind around the idea that, hey, when people come back to campus, you're going to read about a lot of positive tests. Mm-hmm. But then when it actually happens, you kind of go, ooh, well, that's 30 at LSU, huh? That seems like a lot.
Yeah. That's about half the team, right?
And so you start getting a little concerned, all of a sudden Texas has got 20 plus, Clemson's got 20 plus. You're like, maybe this was not as good an idea as we thought it was. But I think, again, it's just wrestling with the knowledge that a lot of people are going to test positive. And I know purely by the numbers, something around the neighborhood of 70%, 75% of the people in the country are going to get it at some point, right? It's really more about monitoring deaths than hospital beds.
Hey, I know one thing. They're not going to have more than 100 positive tests per team. So there's kind of a cap.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
LSU came out the box swinging, trying to reach that cap early.
Clemson too.
It's the race to 100 by August. I do think, and I wrote a column about this. I put it on the site today. People can read it over at warchant.com. But I do think this could be a wake-up call for the players because the reality is it's hard for 18 to 19 to 22-year-olds to take any of this super seriously, especially when they realize, we're all feel invincible at that age anyway. But then, even the reports say that for the most part, people of that age are going to be okay. And these guys, for the vast majority, are in great shape. So they all should come out just fine. So I think it's hard for them to, it's hard for regular people to take it seriously. Some people, certainly people in that age group, but you would think that when they hear those numbers and realize that, man, this could put your entire season in jeopardy, because they're not, a lot of people talk about how college sports is unfair because the kids get taken advantage of by the programs. The kids want to play. That's why they're there. They want to play these seasons. They want to prepare for the NFL. They want to play the game they love. So when they see these results at all these campuses, you'd like to think that maybe it's going to make them realize, hey, we can't act the way we've always acted. We can't go to every friend's house. We can't go to every party. We can't go to every club. If college football is that important to us, we have to be committed to not put ourselves in dangerous situations. Now, that can't be mandated. Like the school can't tell them you can never leave your house, and that wouldn't be fair. But if it's a priority to them, you'd think that situations like this might help them take it more seriously.
Do you think Norvell should get maybe the whole team to sign like a promissory note that they're not going to go to parties and they're not going to fraternize with the regular students?
He could just take Jimbo's old nut and just get some white out and just
instead of play hard. It'll say wear mask.
Yeah.
Just scratch through play hard.
I thought about all of our mindsets as college students and in particular, virile, in shape young men and what we were looking to do every Friday and Saturday and how difficult it would be to tell guys like, yeah, man, don't kiss that girl. Yeah. Even if she wants to be kissed.
Wear a mask to do
it. You're gonna
wear a mask.
Yeah, you can't try to pick up anybody, guys. Just can't do it.
And I think I do want – I've talked to Ira about this a lot, or at least we texted about it. Like, I think I talked about it with Aslan. But, like, tell us – I know there are privacy laws to an extent. You don't have to tell us who got it. Tell us how they got it. I want to know how 23 Clemson guys got it. I know the Athletic did something on Kansas State and said they traced it all back to their 14 or 15 guys all went to the same party. And they got it there, and that it kind of mushroomed from there, and other kids on campus got it. I'll just tell us that, because I think when people see 23 football players or 11 Phillies, they think, oh, are they getting it from touching the same ball? Are they getting it from breathing on each other outside in 90-degree heat? I don't know that they're not getting it that way, but I also don't know that they are getting it that way. I want to know how they're getting it, and I think everybody needs to know how they're getting it as we move forward. You can't say, oh, they got it, and they're an athlete. So athletics must be bad for them.
That's what I do. Yeah, that's what I think people are assuming when they see, oh, they're stopping workouts because this many people have it. And it's like, and again, I can't speak for, it's hard for me to say exactly what's happening at FSU, but I have talked to enough people about the precautions that they're taking there to know, I think it's pretty unlikely they're getting it from the workouts they do. First of all, they work out in small groups. Second of all, everything's sanitized constantly. Third of all, they are getting tested.
Well, they're also really spread out, more importantly.
Yeah, they're spreading them out. I mean, so they're doing everything they can. I don't think in most of these cases it's coming from the workouts. The problem is if the guys are getting it outside and then will they bring it in? And then now you're just increasing the risk on your teammates. But yeah, I think a lot of people are assuming it's sports related. I don't think it's sports related. But again, the problem is if they bring it in, it can become.
Did you guys think in a weird, almost perverse way, like, well, you know what? If this is going to happen, let's have 70 freaking players get it at FSU in June.
Yeah.
And then let's go from there. Let's go.
As long as they're not being really affected by it, as long as to them it feels like a fatigue or a cold. I mean, we don't want anybody to get genuinely sick.
Of course, nobody wants to be.
But that's another thing I want to know is how I haven't read anything about the 23 Clemson players. Did they get sick? Did they were they laid up for a week?
Right.
Yeah, or maybe they had symptoms, but they were mild. We do need to know how it affects kids that are 21 years old and in great shape. That to me is important because you don't. If half of them are having to be laid up for 2 weeks and a third of them have to go to a hospital, well then we're in real trouble. Not just as college football fans, but as society. But if most of them just shrug it off like a common cold, then that's different.
Ira, you were going to say something.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, but that's the problem. Like when we were kids, I remember like my brother got chicken pox. my family's like, okay, we're all getting chicken pox.
Yeah,
it's our time. Let's go time. And because we're not going through this 3 different times.
No,
we're gonna go through this one time. And so, but they knew that chicken pox wasn't going to cause you long-term problems. The problem with this is nobody knows for sure. There are outliers, and there are pre-existing conditions that players might not even know about. So they can't do it. They can't, like what Jeff is saying, if we knew there was no long-term impact, for sure, everybody would sign up.
Let's out, everybody. Let's go. We take the Boris Johnson approach and just get in a pub and have a big do, I mean, but yeah, obviously we don't know that. But I mean, it's weird because you find yourself thinking about things in odd ways where you're kind of calculating, and then you lose humanity a little bit. But you're also thinking, hey, look, man, nobody from the government is cutting us checks on the regular to stay home.
Right.
And so, what do we do here? Do we all immerse ourselves and say, okay, let's expedite the process, and some people are going to die? But, I mean, it sounds ruthless, doesn't it? But, I mean, I can see how you go down that rabbit hole.
Well, I think it's just going to be masks, right? We're all going to be required to wear masks. We can't just shut down again. No, number one, it's not happening in Florida or Georgia for sure, because it would be political. It would just be a political debacle for those two guys. It shouldn't be political, but it is. It will be political. They can't do it. They just can't admit that they made a mistake in reopening so soon, so they won't. But they are going to have to. Like Leon County's requiring masks, right?
Yeah. Well, you don't have to wear a mask if you're eating in a restaurant. You don't have to wear a mask if you're working out at Orange Theory Fitness. But everywhere else, you have to wear a mask.
Just Orange Theory Fitness?
Well, no.
How'd they get that deal?
The gyms.
Oh, okay.
But the other gyms, Corey, the other gyms are not paying daddy.
Oh, so, I got you. Understood.
So we got it. Yeah.
That's where all these conversations go, though, is somebody will make the argument that Jeff was just making that, look, I mean, of however many thousand, this percentage or whatever, but then of course it's like, well, who wants to pick the player that's going to have the bad consequences? And it sounds like you don't care about that person.
Right.
Well,
it sounds coward.
It's not that, but there is a reality that things have to move on. I don't, Corey, I meant to ask you, have you put in the paperwork to get the patent yet on your new helmets that you've designed? You were telling me about yesterday?
Yeah. So Jeff,
wait, I like this.
Okay.
We got a helmet design, and we're going to hear about it next. Corey's come up with one right here on Seminole Headlines.
Patent pending.
Seminole Headlines will take a breather. More next. Seminole Headlines returns now on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
All right, Corey, lead the way with this new helmet design. I'm very, very excited.
So Ira and I were talking just about the troubles that we could foresee with somebody playing with COVID against a football player, like lining up on the line of scrimmage. You're going to be breathing on them. You're going to be breathing all over them, maybe snotting on them. Well, do we have to have air? Like, can't we just cover the face completely? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost like a Darth Vader mask.
Right.
But there's air holes out of the side. So all your breath goes out of your ears.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like if your breath is going out of your ears, it might. If you're
not straight ahead.
Yeah, if you're playing right guard, okay, yeah, sure, the right tackle's going to get some.
Yeah.
But he's going to get some on his side of his helmet, not in his face. So there's got to be a way somebody's got to be out there. Now, obviously, I'm on record now. This is obvious. This is like a patent. Like I could get in court,
bring this to court
2 years from now, and this will be my proof. But somebody can design a helmet where the airflow just goes out of the side of the helmet, so you're not fogging up your own mask.
You'd have to have like
breathing on people.
You'd have to have like a breathing like a snorkel kind of thing that goes from, like, your mouthpiece becomes a snorkel that aims out of the side your ear hole.
Guys, this is making itself almost. I feel like we could do it. Do you know anybody at Rydell, Jeff?
I actually do know somebody at Rydell. It's an amazing thing that you would ask, but I would also say this, Corey. One of the things I like about your ideas is how thoroughly you think them through before you bring them to a show.
Well, I've been workshopping this. I've been workshopping this for weeks.
It's evident. And
Corey's not the type of person to just have a whim and then take it to broadcast.
Just go.
Are you kidding? No chance.
Thought about it. Like, he spent some time last night at the kitchen table, drawing it. He was thinking about the various complexities.
My office here looks like Beautiful Mind. Like I've got all my different drawings up on walls. There's a million of them, and I've gone through a bunch of designs, and I finally settled on the Darth Vader mask with the airflow going out the side, like Ira said, with the snorkel, like the straw. They're almost like straws. They're almost like the how you drink a beer from the side of your head, one of those hats. That's how you're breathing out the side of your and when you talk to your teammates. It doesn't matter if you're standing nose to nose because you're not getting anything on them. No droplets.
So you think the office? Go ahead.
Well, I was going to change. I was going to divert.
Before you change the subject, let me say this. You would say that the office that you have with your designs is a lot like Beautiful Mind. Some might look to Mel Gibson's Conspiracy Theory. The same wall, same type, one of those things.
It's a fine line. It's a fine line between those two things. Sure.
Right.
Very fine. Sometimes it's blurred. I was just talking about like inventions and like before the internet, like con men and grifters could say they invented anything. And and my mom dated one. When I was a kid, this guy, I remember him trying to tell me, I was like 9 years old, and he's telling me that he invented the pop top on like a can of soda or beer.
That's a good lie. That's a good lie.
It is because like who would make that up? Like, so I'm like, part of me is like, yeah, dude, but would you be in a better house? Like, I mean, even like as a 9-year-old, I was like, that doesn't seem. And he's like, well,
house suck.
Well, there's some litigation. I kind of got whatever. Anyway, when Google was invented, I looked it up. Yeah, my man did not invent the pop top, but it probably impressed my mom. It had my mom going.
It's good. It's like Mike Myers saying that his father invented the question mark. I remember spitting out my soda when I saw that in the movie. Yeah, it was like, that's just a great line. He was prone to outrageous hyperbole, like I invented the question.
I invented the question mark. Yep.
Before the internet, you really could just, especially if you were in a debate, you could just say, well, the man hit 407 in the month of July. I'm telling everybody, like, does anybody got a baseball thesaurus around here to know in 1927 whether or not
that was, and I think I mentioned this before, but that was the best and worst part of working in Thomasville, a small newspaper, was dudes would be at a bar every Friday and Saturday night, and they'd get in arguments, and then to settle it, they couldn't get on their iPhone because there was no iPhone. They would call the newspaper. So we'd be at the paper at midnight, putting out the paper, trying to meet deadline, and we get these calls from the bar. Hey, was David Robinson taller or Tim Duncan taller? I say it was Tim Duncan, and it's like, dude, I'm trying to put out a newspaper here. Can I call you back in a half hour?
But I love their resourcefulness. That's awesome. Like that debate must have been raging for a guy to finally go, I'll tell you what, Ted, I'm going to call the newspaper right the F now, and we're going to find out that you're full of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that would happen a lot. You'd get like, how many Cy Youngs did Greg Maddux win? It's like, well,
what was the score of that Super Bowl?
Yeah, all that stuff. And it's like, because I guess we had access to the internet and they didn't because they were at a bar. Now we all have it on our phones, guys. It's 2020. We did it.
Yeah. Yeah, we're able to debate. The debates end very quickly.
Very quickly.
So when Corey tells people he invented this super mask and saved college football and the NFL in 2020 during the pandemic, he'll be able to prove it was him.
If you were able to invent a mask or a helmet, in this case, that saved college football or the NFL or football in general, Corey, we'll name the stadium after you.
There you go.
Because we're in the middle of the stadium debate.
Right.
It's over. It's Corey Clark Stadium from here to eternity. In fact, all stadiums in America.
Yeah, it'd be like Jackie Robinson.
Corey Clark Stadium.
Guys, I got it. If that happens, Daddy's got to go delete some tweets.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to have to. I mean, listen, if you save the sport of football, you really can name whatever building you'd like after yourself, and people will be like, yeah, that sounds good to me. I mean,
the Corey Clark Stadium, I think people would all get behind that if I saved it in 2020. I would save multiple universities. I would keep them afloat. I would keep them in existence.
But
UConn just cut 4 sports.
Do you think do you think your name would be already on the building before old friends started showing up with text messages that you sent?
Yeah, no. I think my friends would look out for me. So I would think
good friends. Those aren't good friends. Yeah.
And I don't want people to get the wrong idea. These aren't racist These aren't racist texts.
No.
They're just inappropriate. I mean, what are we going to do?
They're just a little blue.
Yeah, a little blue. I work a little blue. You guys know.
Back,
So yeah, I think. I wonder, would you call it just the Corey, the core, hardcore? Would it have a nickname, or would you can't just
Sweet Pea? Sweet Pea?
Sweet Pea? No, we're not calling it the Sweet Pea.
The Sweet Pea Field, Corey, the Core Stadium with Sweet Pea Field. No, I don't like it. Corey Clark Stadium and Sweet Pea Field. Yeah.
No, I don't want to do that.
By the way, speaking of which, Corey, a prime example of why we couldn't run for office and wouldn't want to, or have buildings named after us. If you just look at our last our last text exchange. No chance.
Done. That's done.
Just the last one.
Freedom of information request, and we're done. Yep, you're right. I'm with you. People who know us would be like, "That's a really funny exchange," but everybody else would be like horrified. Like, look at these two. That's how they talk to each other.
The other day, Aslan and I were playing tennis, and it just I can't even remember why it happened. I think maybe Corey texted me during a break, and Aslan goes, like, at what age do you think Corey's going to stop calling us that in our text messages?
Oh yeah.
If it hadn't stopped by now.
I mean, the man's damn near 50, and it hasn't happened. It's just not going. Seminole Headlines, 97.9 ESPN Radio continues in a moment.
Seminole Headlines will take a breather. More next. Seminole Headlines returns now on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
All right, Ira, back to warchant.com. Both of you worked there, and you mentioned a column you wrote, and you were basically talking about the fact that maybe this wakes kids up. That gets me to the larger point, which I ask every week. You still playing football in the fall, boys?
At what point are we talking about? Are we talking? Because I think there's maybe
what year? Hey, what year? You didn't specify a year. Yeah, they'll play football in the fall again.
I think where we are now is will they play? Will they start on time, and how long will they play? Those are, I think, the two big questions. I don't know. I mean, I have a feeling that they'll start playing football on time. And I think there's a decent chance. Here's my question. Like, if for Florida State, like, so many classes are going to be online now. Like, Florida State's campus is going to be open, quote unquote, but so many classes are going to be online. I really think the players, my guess is most of the players' classes, unless they have to be in person, are probably going to be all online. And so I really think they are going to be more in a bubble than we might think. I mean, it's going to be team activities. It's going to be online classes with the tutors and all that kind of thing. I think it's going to be pretty controlled for the players once the season starts. I think this is actually a tougher time because they only get a few hours a week where they're actually committed to being in team activities. So I think there's a chance. I think there's a better chance than I felt like over the weekend. If I'm putting it right now, I'd say it's. I think it's a 75% chance they start on time, but maybe like a 50% chance that we make it through a season. That's where I am.
The idea of online courses for everybody. You talk about a Travisham mockery. What a joke! You've never been able to cheat easier than you are now, man. That's unbelievable. Ain't nobody failing an online course for the football players. It's just not happening. I'm not buying it.
Correct.
I'm just saying.
I mean, that's going to be the quandary. And again, as somebody that's got a kid in college, my daughter's just finished her sophomore year of college. It's a big concern. I mean, I've not beyond football. I mean, I'm concerned about just the education system.
Of course you are. You should be. Ridiculous.
And so I don't know. I mean, I get that there's like one thing I saw where my daughter goes to school. They're actually looking at doing outdoor classes, which was something that we had talked about.
Nice.
Like, hey, could that be an option? I haven't seen Florida State doing that. Florida State seems to be pretty focused on shutting things down and really limiting risk, which I get. But I also feel like there's needs to be a desire to figure out as many ways as possible, because I think what's going to happen is even if all these kids come back in the fall, these regular students, I'm concerned how many of them are going to be like, this experience stunk.
It is going to stink. It's not why you go to college, period.
Exactly.
It's not why you go to college at all.
So beyond football, I think that's a concern. But yeah, I mean,
but it's temporary, Ira. If it's, I think the thing is you have to see an end in sight. You can say, all right, look, guys, we know this isn't ideal. And if you're an out-of-state student, this is a sham. Why are you spending out-of-state tuition to take online courses? It's ridiculous. But understand these are extraordinary times. We're not going to keep it this way. Like we do everything else, once change is exacted, a lot of times you never go back. But we are hell-bent on going back. We are going to make sure that if things are clear to go in the spring, we're gonna shift back to the way we were doing things. I think if people knew that, okay, this is a temporary measure during extraordinary times, they would say yes to it. But if you feel like this is a long-term avenue by which to educate kids with just solely online courses, no, this isn't going to work.
But from a university standpoint, though, wouldn't you, if you have the option, if you have the option to make the football players take all online classes, isn't that what you're doing?
Well,
this fall?
Yeah. They all got A's. It's amazing.
Hey, whatever it takes. But yeah, they're also staying relatively as safe as they can and not mixing with because they're the ones that are going to be able to get tested more than the regular college students. We assume.
100%.
But I do wonder, we've all covered or been at high school. I don't know, Jeff, if you had a great locker room in high school, but when you cover a high school football game and the visiting team didn't have a locker room, so they would just go meet at halftime behind the end zone.
Yeah.
I mean, are we going to send 100 people, sweaty, breathing hard, into a confined locker room for 30 minutes and for an hour and a half before a game? I mean, I think that's the stuff you got to assume too, but I don't know that we have enough data yet to know how they're getting it, but I would assume you have a much better chance of getting it in a locker room, all breathing on each other really close, especially visiting teams, than you would just staying outside and hanging out in the end zone.
Well, Corey, it's more than just a good hunch. I think it's you can say with some degree of certainty that is true.
That'd be cool seeing the Florida players just sitting in the end zone eating orange slices at halftime of a game, or up in the stands.
No, or could they go in there with the Clark helmet? Or is that still going to be a problem?
The Clark helmet, you can go anywhere. And that's another thing I wanted to say. It's not just for football players. You can wear it into a grocery store. You can wear it on a date.
Yeah, but the problem is, Corey, if I'm in the aisle, say the cereal aisle, right. I take cereal shopping serious. Mm-hmm. I may be there a while. You got a lot of options.
Sure.
And if you roll up next to me with your side air shooting ass, we're going to have a problem on our hands.
I'll be behind you. You don't have to worry about it. It's going to the side. It's not going on your neck or anything. Okay. You'll be fine.
Okay. Because you can't line up like that.
No, I wouldn't do that.
If I'm checking the Count Chocula and you're over here thinking Golden Grams / Crunch Berries, not sure, and then all of a sudden your ear shooting me, there may be a fight.
Can you get it from ear droplets in your ear? I feel like you're safe. As long as you're not looking at the side of my helmet with your mouth agape.
Left to check out Wheaties for some.
Then you might be in trouble because droplets are coming.
And then boom, I just gotten shot right there.
I just have this, and I know Corey's coming for the old reference, but I just have this image of the Corey helmet looking like the Gazoo from the Flintstones.
You went even older than I thought you would.
Yeah, but he was an incredible character. That's an all-time character. Well. Back to the original question, which was whether or not we're going to play in the fall. Corey, you didn't answer it.
I didn't. I do think they're going to play in the fall, but I think Ira's point is valid. I have a hard time thinking that I don't think a season will be canceled, but I think games will be canceled or postponed because there'll be an outbreak on a team, and they'll say, all right, we'll move it to this date.
What a mess. This is such a mess on a lot of levels because I keep thinking about the exorbitant expense of testing as frequently as they're going to need to be tested and who's paying for that. And I get that, okay, maybe Florida State can pay for that, but Samford can't.
Yeah.
How the hell is this going to get done?
Well, and then you get to the question of, if you're Florida State and you've got Samford in week 2 and you're asking, hey, so what policies have you put in place? When's the last time you've tested all these guys?
There's no uniformity. That's what I'm saying.
I think Florida State, honestly, I think a school like Florida State could pay for the testing for on that Thursday.
Could you imagine?
Or that Friday, we're testing all your kids, all your players.
Drive your bus over on Thursday. We've got some testing to do.
Yeah. Or Saturday, it could be like a weigh-in for wrestling.
Man, they're not going to pay for Sanford's ass. These things are expensive. This is a lot of money. The NFL should be paying for this, first of all, but they're not going to. Secondly, I don't know, man. This is going to be extraordinary to watch. I mean, just again, there's no czar of college football that says everybody has to do this the exact same way across every conference, and that we know you're doing what we're doing to stay safe. We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the testing obviously is expensive, but even if you're looking at the estimates are anywhere from $600,000-$700,000 to $1 million or whatever per team. But it's that if that's a requirement of doing business, it's a requirement of doing business.
Right, but not as expensive as Willie Taggart's buyout.
Yes, but given that they did pay for that, this is a damn kick in the boys.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's the whole thing. I mean, that's the reality of it. Is we all talk about if there's a season or if there's no season, and what does that mean monetarily? So, like, if there's no season, we know it's a complete catastrophe for college athletics. Sports are going to be cut at every school. People are going to be laid off. I mean, it's going to be a disaster. But even if they play, but it's only 20% of the people in the stadiums or 30% of the people in the stadiums, it's also going to be a catastrophe. It's only just not as bad as it could be. Yeah. I mean, we're just talking different degrees of crap. I mean, there's no way any athletic department is getting out of this without serious hemorrhaging.
Well, it's why we were so angry with baseball with all the shenanigans going on, because look, if you're a billionaire owner or a multi-million-dollar player, the bottom line is you're both going to lose your ass relative to what you're accustomed to making, given the fact that you were always going to play a truncated season. You were always going to have to both bite the bullet. It was a matter of trying to stop the hemorrhaging for both parties and not lose all the money. So can't we come together weeks in advance, understanding we're both losing our ass, but we got to play some semblance of games to make some profit, both of us. We've got to find a way. But they didn't seem to be worried about playing this year. They were worried about the CBA for next year. And so they were both making larger points and ignoring the need to get out there and play now. At least in the case of college football, every university desperately not only wants to, but has to play. They've got to play. So they're all pulling in the same direction. They're going to do whatever they can to get on the field and play some semblance of a season. It's just that there is no uniformity, whereas in the pro leagues, you could say mandate across the league, all of you are doing this. All of you are doing this. But we don't know. Florida State will be doing one thing. I don't know what half their, what's Boise doing? What are half the other teams doing?
Speaking of baseball, though, Corey, Jeff had a meet on yesterday for how long was he? The whole hour? Or how long was he on?
15 minutes, 15, 20.
No. Okay, then I must have heard most of it because I heard like 10 or 15 minutes. Yeah, it was very interesting.
It was a great interview, yeah.
I thought he was on maybe for the whole hour. I only just caught that part. But yeah, he was taking some shots at Major League Baseball.
Oh, he took shots at Major League Baseball. He took shots at college baseball. He ripped the umps for college baseball. It was great. I mean,
good. I'll go back and listen to that. That sounds exciting. What hour was it?
It was in the 5 o'clock hour.
Okay, I don't want to accidentally.
The other 2 hours.
I'm not going to waste my time with the first hour.
Yeah,
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
See, he puts the good guests in the 5 o'clock hour. Like my spot is the 4 o'clock hour.
No,
on Monday.
It's called a point. Listen, let me give you a little behind the curtains of radio. First of all, appointment radio is really important, right? So you get people who don't have time to listen to all 3 hours of a radio program. They lead busy lives. They do stuff. Many moons ago, when we established you at 4 o'clock for whatever reason. That might have been your preference. I don't really remember.
Or maybe because you saw me as a AAA.
No,
double A.
First-time guest. I already had somebody in the 5 o'clock hour, so I need to make a place for Ira. And people got so used to you being at 4:05 on Mondays, they thought, oh, well, that's appointment radio. I know one thing. I may miss half a Cameron show today, but I'm not missing 4:05 with Ira Chaffel. You can't move that on them.
Or the flip side is, I know not to tune in today until about 4:23 because I'm not listening to that guy anymore. There's always a flip side. You just know there is comfort in knowing the Ira block and when it is.
Yeah, I wish Mondays at this time.
I wish people could have seen this Zoom call for Corey's patronizing head nod as you were talking and setting up his his line.
Yeah. Or Jeff, that could be the one time they don't listen to your show.
Yeah, that's the one time, the 18-minute stretch they don't listen.
Seminole Headlines, 97.9 ESPN Radio continues in a moment.
Seminole Headlines will take a breather. More next. Seminole Headlines returns now on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Wrapping up the hour, and in doing so, what do you guys, we should probably weigh in. I got to say real quick, we made reference to it earlier in the hour, so we're not ignoring the subject, but I thought you guys did a good job. I don't know, did you write it, Ira or Corey? Which one wrote the piece on that cited Thrasher putting together a group of alumni and faculty and students from 2017 to take a good hard look at the names of buildings and different facilities? I thought that was informative. And I also thought it kind of allowed me to take a step back and appreciate President Thrasher a little bit, because you talk about being forward thinking. That was 3 years ago, basically, that he realized, man, we're going to have to take a good hard look at some of the people that we name our schools after and our buildings after. And that informs his decision and potentially Coburn and others' decisions as to what to do with Doak Campbell. I think when you do the research, you find out that Doak Campbell himself, president from 41 to 57, helping merge the school to be co-ed, was very of that era. He certainly wasn't an exception of that era, however.
Yeah, and I think that's where, the challenge with all this. And actually, when they did that panel 3 years ago, they gave them a list of criteria. I don't know, actually, I'm not sure if the university gave the panel the criteria or if the panel came up with the criteria. I think the panel came up with the criteria, but it's basically like 10 or more points, like understanding that everything that people did 100 years ago or 50 years ago or 40 years ago might not seem to fit with the norms of today. So they're not going to cast everything aside, but is it either so far beyond, what they could consider understandable, or should they have known better? And I think that was one of the issues with the BK Roberts being named on the College of Law was they felt like, at that time, some of those views might have been understandable, but he should have known better when he was on the Supreme Court justice than to be continuing some of the things that they were continuing. So, it's a lot of it's subjective. And so what they did in that time was they put together the panel, and it was a lot of, people you've heard of on campus, and also some other community leaders. And then with this situation, they haven't done the panel yet. Basically, President Thrasher went to David Coburn and said, I want you to look into this and then come back to me and make a recommendation. We don't know what that recommendation is going to be. I don't know if that's going to be yes or no, the name stays or it doesn't stay, or is it, we need to really have a panel look at this, or you and I can decide, whatever it is. But right now the ball's in David Coburn's court. It's going to be a tough decision. I don't think it's cut and dry. As you said, Doak Campbell was a prominent, was the first president of the Florida State University when they changed from the College for Women. He also was the one that was behind their starting an athletics program, got the stadium built. That's why his name is on the stadium. So there are positives there. But also he was very active in, they had a lot of issues with, integration at the time. And, Florida State didn't have black students yet. They wouldn't have black students until the early 60s. And this was in the mid 50s. And he actually expelled a white student for bringing black students from FAMU onto campus for an event. He also, had comments where he talked about shutting down meetings, not allowing meetings to happen. So all of that, looks bad. I think the argument
students from talking about segregation in churches or on the university campus, that's a problem.
Yeah, 100%. The other argument though that people make, his grandson made this week and other people have made, is that at the time for Florida State University, just getting approved as a state school for integrated and all that, not integrated, coeducational at the time, that if the argument they would make is that if he allowed more integration than what the legislature would have been okay with, what the powers that be would have been okay with, the whole school might have come unglued. They may not have been funding for the school. They may have. So that's what their argument would be. I'm not saying I would take that position, but I can understand why they would make that argument. It's not cut and dry. This was a person choosing to have evil I mean, there's a lot of, if you read articles, there's a lot of things he said and did, even in this area, that you'd feel better about.
This is a more complicated one than some of them. Some of them are really point blank obvious. And you look around at a building in South Carolina named after Strom Thurmond and you go, what the hell are we doing here? That's ridiculous. This is not that. This is a little bit different there. And a lot of times you get into a nuanced debate here. It is more complicated in many situations than some of the more obvious ones that I just named, for example, Thurmond.
The one thing I would say, and we on the podcast I do with Adrian and Corey, they got Kendrick Scott to come on and to talk to us. And the point he made, I think was a really valid point, is he when he started the petition to have the name removed, he wasn't saying I want Doak Campbell's name to be removed from Florida State University or the campus, or that I think he was a terrible person. He felt that particular building, the football stadium, which features a predominant number of African-American student athletes, that now that everybody knows that part of his history, that, when his point was in the 90s, we didn't know. Like we didn't even know who Doak Campbell was when they were playing. But now that these players do know, that he feels like it's for them to go out there and compete and represent the university with that name on the front of the building. Sure. And the other reason I could get with that is, most of the people who were going to those games had no idea who Doak Campbell was before any of this. So it's not like it was a name. It was a name that was in people's hearts, but not really who it was. Yeah. So
and it's you guys know. I know Jeff knows about Stone Mountain up here in Georgia. I was having a discussion with some buddies, or like a friends of friends, about. I'm like, man, they're gonna get the Stone Mountain carvings are gonna be shaped some other way. They're not going to be those men anymore. And the guy's like, I'm tired of all this. I'm tired of them taking down stuff that's been a part of our, whatever he said, for 50 years. I'm like, all right, man, well, name the 3 guys that are up there. He named one of them. And I'm like, that's the issue. You're mad about something. And so I get that people, I'd love to see Outkast, Henry Aaron, and Jimmy Carter up there on the side of Stone Mountain. I think that would be very representative of Atlanta. But people are mad just because they're taking a name away. I don't think Doak Campbell means something to Florida State fans because of all the good times they've had in the stadium. Yeah. That name doesn't resonate with them. I would guarantee you that non-alumni fans, even alumni fans, probably couldn't tell you when he was president. Many of them couldn't tell you when he was president, how long he was president, if he was a president. So I just don't get that worked up about naming rights of a stadium. I get that this one's different. It's not so cut and dried as the other ones, but I really can see both sides. I don't understand, by the way, a little history. Wasn't Brown versus Board of Education in 1954?
Yes.
But this was 1957. That newspaper article of him saying he's going to suspend or punish students that go to these integration rallies at churches.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all a little murky there, Corey.
It's not good.
What's going on? I mean, I thought there was a federal law.
Oh, yeah. What's happened? Yeah. How did this continue?
It's crazy.
You mean racism didn't stop?
Yeah, it didn't stop with Brown versus Board of Education.
Well, and that's and one of the arguments, on our message boards, one of the, some people, older pop generation of fans will say, no, this is, I think, what they're saying is positive. That Florida State in a lot of ways was a trendsetter. Yeah. In terms of integrating sports, in terms of, you think about, Hugh Durham's basketball team. You think about, Florida State had black football players before a lot of other schools in the South. So there is a proud history of Florida State in a lot of ways, but that doesn't mean this can't be addressed or looked at. And again, I thought Kendrick Scott's point was really good. If I was an African-American football player on this team today and know the situation and know it's been raised, and then if the university comes back and says, no, we're good, I could see that being an issue. And I could understand those players having an issue with it.
If they are going to rename the stadium, what's like the best, what's the test that they're going to use for COVID? Do they have like a main manufacturer of COVID tests?
By the way,
could they name it like Qualtech, whatever a COVID test is, name it Qualtech, and then you get your tests for free.
So, guys, I can't believe I failed to bring you the big news, and I'm going to divert here for a second because we have to answer 2 questions before we round out the hour and get to headliner questions. Corey, because you brought it up, it's going to bother me. I've been to Stone Mountain 3 times, but I think the last time I went was when Bryce was really little. Robert E. Lee?
Yep.
Jefferson Davis?
Yep.
Just a guess, because I don't know the third, but given that he's prominent in the South, Stonewall Jackson.
There you go. Those are the 3, buddy.
All right, so that's ridiculous. So
correct.
So that's ridiculous.
Correct.
Nobody should argue to get that. But anyhow,
that's going to be a big job to change that, though. That's not just, hey, we're going to go overnight and tear down a statue.
It's not easy. All right, 4th thing I want to do. Somebody sent us something, and it's the guy. Hold on, I got to get it now. This is bad radio. You guys talk amongst each other.
Ira, what do you think he's getting?
I don't know.
It didn't take me long. The nice gentleman here. Hold on, let me see. I think there's a message on the back. Yeah, it's from Ken, and he's the guy that did these wood carvings for us.
Oh, the Lethal Simplicity.
Oh yeah, okay.
Lethal. What was it? Lethal. Competence. Lethal Competence.
Well, he wrote us something very, very kind that I'll read to you off the air, complimenting the show, complimenting us, and I appreciate that, Ken. And I'll read it to the fellas here when we go to break. But check this out, guys. You can see this since we're on a Zoom call. Can you see that?
Holy.
Hey,
don't cuss.
Sorry. Wow.
So Seminole headlines top. What is it? Top 40 defense.
Top 40 defense.
That was our debate, is whether or not they're going to.
Top folk and smoke them if you got them.
Smoke them if you got them. It goes there in the little cigarette place. You know, we're going to hang it in the stadium. We got
that's our plaque.
That's our plaque.
No, that's where it's going to be.
Yes.
Did we just talk about that last week?
Yes. And he made this. And look how gorgeous this is.
It's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then
you should take a picture of that and put it on Twitter.
Guys. But there to smoke them if you got them.
Hold on one second. Let me
so that's going to be the plaque inside Qualcomm Stadium or Qualtech Stadium.
Yeah, when we sneak in, because we have a top 40 defense.
Top 40 defense. We're going to put that there. But he did. I mean, that looks like. I mean, I guess I don't know anything about wood carving.
It's I think there's a technique. Yeah, I did. I think there's you can put it down. I got it. I think there's a technique with like machinery where it's not like he's whittling away. I believe. I don't want to disparage him, but I believe there's
handcrafted this, and you're just dismissing his talent.
Yeah, you're saying he's just using a machine. He make those by.
I'm just saying.
That's good.
I mean, if he does by hand, more. I mean, I'm impressed already. But if he doesn't by hand, then we should name the stadium after him.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's awesome. We got to hang that up. We got to do it. That's
we'll do it. We'll do it one night.
Hey,
but now, people crack up.
We need to go to Adam Fuller and say, look, dude, this is on the line. You got to make it happen so we can put this plaque
in a restroom or that little beer garden area stadium. So there's a lot.
Forget the baseballs with the spiked nails through it or whatever. This is what you're playing for. Top 40.
Headliner questions forthcoming. Stay with.
Seminole Headlines will take a breather. More next.